So the Farm Bill is in the news, and in this presentation, we're briefly going to understand what is Farm Bill. But before you understand what's the Farm Bill, we really have to take a step back and understand the agriculture as an industry in India. As it stands, the year is 2020, and still 60% of the country's population is employed by one single industry, agriculture. To people working in the white collar jobs in AC offices, people like us, it's really hard to fathom this number, but that's a fact. The ground reality is that still agriculture is a major industry. And 18% of the country's GDP is contributed by people employed in this sector. Right? Here's a historical trivia. At the time of Indian independence, agriculture in fact contributed more than half of the entire GDP of the country. Can you guess which industry or sector contributes the most GDP as it stands? Services. Yes, services contributes the most GDP right now. The third point is the most important point here to understand the next framework. Agriculture is a state subject. What does that mean? That simply means that each state has its own authority, has its own approach. They legally can handle. I mean, the constitution gives them this right on how they handle agriculture. It's a state subject. They decide how this works. For example, defense, as an example, is not a state subject. It's a central subject. The center gets to decide the country's defense as a whole. But when it comes to agriculture as an industry, each state gets to decide what they think is best. Now, what is Farm Bill 2020? The bill comprises of three more bills. I mean, Farm Bill is basically constitutes, there are three pieces to it, and will contribute, will basically go one after the other. The first one, the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill 2020. So this bill basically protects the farmer with a legal agreement. You know, farming basically largely is fragmented. It's pretty unorganized. With this bill, what the government really wants to do is bring structure to this one, right? If I'm a buyer, an individual, a corporation, or whatever, and I'm going to buy from a farmer, the bill basically is provisioning that there be a legal contract so the farmer is not cheated, right? There are no last minute changes on the price, given there are perishable crops, non perishable crops, a lot of variables in farming, right? Once I sign the contract, as a farmer, I'm bound to be paid by whoever is buying from me with this one. There is price assurance. Then there is the farm services. With this one, as a buyer, if I'm going to buy from the farmer, I have this assurance on the quality, right? The farmer gets to produce basis my requirements, right? So that is the farm services. If you really look, what is happening here is, if this legal contract comes into play, the farmer gets this stability with the pricing, right? They don't have to really worry about what they get paid. Second, the farm services. As I am the one who's going to buy from the farmer, I have this legal framework to dictate what kind of a crop do I want. If you really take a moment to understand this, what's really percolating here is the technology. If I'm going to be dictating what kind of a crop I want, how should be produced, I'm really going to do a lot of training here, right? I'm going to really teach the farmer a lot of technologies. And that is how the government also believes this will uplift the farm revenues almost double by 2022, right? So government believes this will in fact invite the private investors. With that, there will be a lot of cash coming in. With cash comes a lot of new tech, and there is a leeway for experimenting. And there is exactly what the government thinks best. Now the farmers have a worry with this bill. They believe that they will be exploited by the large corporations with the legal clauses. They don't understand. Farmers really don't understand the legal framework. Largely, India is a country where a lot of land is held in small quantities by a lot of farmers. The larger portion of the land is held by a few folks, right? I mean, basically too many small players holding tiny bits of land. So these are poor farmers, and they believe they get exploited by the legal clauses. They don't understand the language of law. The second one, the Farming Product Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill 2020. So the facilitating of basically with this bill, the government is proposing that they'll facilitate trading of agricultural goods outside of mandi and APMCRs. This really is the contention for a lot of states, right? The government basically is proposing this law will give the freedom to farmers to go sell anywhere. They're not bound to come sell in the mandis. In fact, even as it stands, as if I'm a farmer, I can actually go sell anywhere. But APMCs are lucrative because there are middlemen who will buy my good no matter if I have only 1 ton of good to sell or 100 tons. I can actually go negotiate so long as I pay that middleman fee, right? And APMCs are government runs, state government run, and they have a mandi fee, right? I pay them to use their infrastructure. Now, state governments will gonna, of course, gonna lose this revenue generated from APMC, because now the law is dictating that go sell anywhere in the country, no state wide borders, no border holds you back, right? You can actually go sell. You produce in Karnataka, you go sell in Kashmir, nobody holds you back, right? So with this move, the central government intends to move out of the agriculture business. Agriculture is a pretty stressful industry in a way, and pretty one of those industries which kind of runs into vote banks when the politics gets involved. So central government is proposing, let's more of the agribusiness, make sure the agriculture actually works, operates according to the markets and not held by the news by a few players, including the government. So now farmers can negotiate their prices directly with the businesses, right? Instead of relying on the middlemen. Now the point of contention is that the bill also means there is no minimum support price in case the markets tumble. You get a MSP for all. There's a list of 22 crops where you can actually have a minimum support price when you sell in the APMC. Now with this bill, when you're going to sell out in the market, you are right. I mean, your skin is in the game. You don't get that MSP no longer, right? So that's the contention here. Now, the third part is the Essential Commodities Amendment Bill 2020. Now, what with this bill, what is happening is the government is proposing to remove certain food items from the list of essential commodities. Basically, the government maintains a dynamic list of essential commodities. For example, when COVID hit us, COVID became a reality. Everyone is educated. Come March, suddenly everyone is running amok for masks and sanitizers. At that point in time, government feels this need and they added masks and sanitizers to the list of essential commodities. By the end of September, when everything normalized, they did take out that, right? So items in this list from the agri point of view, cereals and onions, now will only be added in case of war, famine, high price rise, or natural calamities. They currently are part of the list. Now, government is proposing we will add only in those cases, those extreme cases. Now, since government will no longer regulate the supply of these items, the chances are there will be a lot of hoarding, right? And there will be a lot of artificial demand leading to the price hikes. You can totally imagine if there is no control. I'm going to buy a lot of onions. Nobody's going to ask me. There is no MSP, and I'm going to hoard that, create artificial supply, artificial demand, and then I'm going to supply at the price I think best. So there is a real risk of hoarding here. Now, what the government is proposing that they're going to include non-perishables in the excluded list only back when there is 50% increase in the retail price. Say there is a current price of say cereals is 100 rupees. Government is saying so long as in the market the rate does not come to 150, they're not going to include it in the essential list. You can imagine how big a range 50% really is for a lot of people. In fact, a lot of farmers will suffer because a lot of farmers actually grow to consume, not to sell. That's a reality out there for a lot of farmers. Now, per the same logic, government will interfere in case of perishables like onions, potatoes, all of those like onions. They would be only added to the list if the retail price goes up by 100%. Say onions are 100 rupees a kg. Now, government is gonna sit back, relax, do nothing until the price reaches 200. It's almost 100%. You could totally imagine the kind of havoc this one is gonna create. But this bill also means no more MSP in case markets stumble, as good as the last one. So you totally can see this bill is gonna hit everyone's pocket, not just the farmers. But farmers are gonna be really hit because they are the ones producing, and markets really work on demand and supply, right? So what is this whole protest that is going on about? The government believes farmers will be liberated from the middlemen and they could sell anywhere. Now, government also believes there'll be a lot of cash flow with the investors coming in. And with this, the farming income will be almost doubled by 2022, right? And there'll be storage and transportation infra because private players come in and they're going to improve this infrastructure altogether, which right now only operates as a vote bank. There is a lot of loan waiver, all of that. It stresses the economy. Government just wants out, a way out, right? Now, the protesting parties are concerned about the following things: that the states will lose out on the mandi fees. This is where the Punjab and Haryana, which has a lot of agricultural population, they are worried. And also, they're predominantly wheat producing states. Wheat is one of those items, incidentally, that is most produced and most supported in the MSP list, right? Minimum support in the list of 22 items that the government supports in the MSP. unfortunately, wheat is the most grown and um, produce in that list. And incidentally, these states produce that the most. Now, commission agents will totally lose out on employment because the government is proposing take out commission agents, go play, sell it out yourself. Now, without formal training in price negotiation, the farmers will be exploited by the contracts, right? And there'll be a lot of hoarding by the private players that could lead in artificial price surge, not just affecting the farmers, but every single citizen. Now, that's the general framework of the Farm Bill. There are a lot of discussions going between the protesting parties and the central government, and let's see what comes out of it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and it gave you a skimmed view of a nutshell view of what's happening and what is the Farm Bill. Thank you.